So I taught guitar for over 10 years. Certainly, I had other things going on in my life. There were concurrent ventures and endeavors and businesses and communities and other things I was doing. But this should have been a dream job. It offered an income, gave me a chance to connect with other teachers and other musicians, gave me the opportunity to practice or write in between students. And I hated it. Now, it didn't take me forever to admit that I hated it. It took forever for me to make the decision to make the transition out of it into something else. So here's what creatives often don't realize. They could be doing something they're great at. You could be a brilliant writer who is able to produce a lot of pages rapidly and should enjoy working for content mills. You could be a fantastic dancer and even enjoy doing it in your spare time. You're basically thinking to yourself, hey, I'm doing something that I love to do. It's in my field, it's in my niche, and I'm getting paid to do it. So I should be grateful for the opportunity. And you think to yourself, yeah, I'm doing something creative. So maybe all I need to do is push through and get to the other side. And at some point, the hate's going to turn into love. But this is the way we justify things as creatives sometimes. And I would even say sensitive creatives or sensitive intuitives. We justify what we don't like and stay loyal far longer than we should. So for me, teaching 30 to 40 students a week felt like a grind. I could not believe that there were other teachers out there who were teaching 50, 60, 70, maybe even 80 students per week. For me, completely unimaginable. Like, how are they doing this? I wanted to be able to record and make music and write songs, not just teach guitar, although that certainly was part of the equation. But even today, I know teachers who have a load of 60, 70, 80 students, and they've been doing this for 10, 20, maybe even 30 years. They're able to not only handle it, but it seems like it's something they actually actively enjoy. Bottom line is, I wasn't bad at teaching. I'm not a bad teacher. I enjoy teaching. And in fact, I think I'm quite good at teaching in a variety of capacities. But teaching guitar just wasn't my vehicle. And oddly enough, I did enjoy working with groups, like workshops, more so than I enjoyed working one on one with certain people. And teaching being one income of several, yeah, the income was okay from teaching. At times it was quite good, especially if I was working for renowned studios. But it really didn't give you the leverage that I wanted to get the freedom I wanted. So it wasn't in perfect alignment. I knew pretty early on that teaching wasn't for me, but I stayed over 10 years and I participated in that. Of course, at some point, I had to ask myself if the problem was me or the model. And I had to come to the conclusion that the model was the problem. And sometimes we have to separate the desire from the object. In other words, you could see someone else thriving and loving their life and enjoying their life, doing what they love to do. So we can easily mistake, oh, if they're going to school and they love going to school, then I should go to school too. What you really want is to be as joyful and elated and excited as they are. Doesn't mean that school is going to be the right vehicle for that. So how do you know if your vehicle is wrong? Number one is you just dread it. You're going to have good days and bad days with anything, but if it's not the right fit, chances are that's going to be the predominant feeling and it's going to stay. It's not going to go away and it's going to keep coming back, even if it does seem to go away in the short term. Number two is it's not going to give you leverage. At least for me, that was a big deal. I didn't want to just trade time for money, which is what I got. I was grateful for sure. I was happy that I had a full-time career as a musician, but it certainly wasn't glamorous. And I yearned for greater freedom. Number three is you feel trapped by someone else's rules, having to do things their way, being paid what they say is fair for you to be paid, not really being able to create your own schedule or set your own boundaries. I think different people are going to have different tolerances for that. But for those of you who resonate with me, you know exactly what I mean. Number four is you're constantly in survival mode. So you're not really learning or growing or developing. You are, but just not really in the ways that you want to be. Number five, you can't see a future that excites you. I mean, at least for me, once I'd been through a week of lessons or a month of lessons, I pretty much knew what the role was going to look like. And it's not as though a whole lot was going to change. Sure, there were things to be excited about. Sure, there were fun students. Sure, occasionally we would work on some fun, challenging songs. But predominantly, I could see how repetitive this was going to be. And it's funny. I think a lot of work ultimately has that in common, is that it's repetitive. That's why success is boring. But if it's going to be repetitive anyway, you ought to find something that connects with you and offers the kind of leverage that you're looking for. So if you resonate with about 3 out of 5 of those, chances are you're not in the right vehicle right now. As far as what to do next, you certainly don't need to burn it all down tomorrow. As you can tell from my experience, that's not what I did. I didn't just say, okay, one off band aid. But it's good to examine, it's good to explore like what parts of it were good, what parts of it were beneficial, what parts of it you enjoyed, and if you could take them with you, you would, as well as what didn't work, what didn't you enjoy, what would you change about that experience. In the example of teaching, there are so many other formats for you to explore. If one-on-one is not working, then you could do one-to-many. You could teach groups, you could hold seminars and workshops. You could also create courses. So you could create something from home and sell it online. There are other modes of delivery that may be a better fit for you, and those are worth exploring too. So, in closing, ultimately, teaching guitar wasn't a waste. It taught me a lot of different things. It gave me an income. It allowed me to sustain my career in music. It wasn't glamorous, as I've said before. At least it did not appear that way to me. But it did fund some other experiments, and it did give me some skills that I still use today. Did it cost me years of energy, income, and clarity? Perhaps in some ways it did, but I didn't know where I was going to go. There wasn't just something that I could pick myself out of it and put myself in some other place. It wasn't like that. I knew I wanted a music career. I had bands going, I had projects going, I was doing recording, I was helping other artists record. So teaching was just kind of a given in that sort of environment. But I will say there is an opportunity to learn from my experience. You don't owe anything that degree of loyalty. Yes, it's good to leave things on good terms. You shouldn't just storm out of the building and say, screw you. At the same time, you are doing yourself a disservice if you stay in something too long that ultimately just drains you. So it's okay to admit to yourself that whatever you're doing, if it's not resonating with you, if it is draining you, it's okay to admit that. And it's also okay to start exploring your options. You could look at delivery methods. You could look at parallel industries. You could look at something completely different and wild that's not even on the radar right now. There's a lot of options, and it's okay to start looking around.